After Emory said those words, the whole world seemed to fall silent. There was no music, no sound of students, only the night wind blowing gently across the lake. I looked at him. My brain tried to process what I had just heard. I might start liking you. My heart pounded so hard it almost hurt. Emory, I whispered, but then I didn't know what to say next. Emory didn't say anything either. He looked down at the water, hands tucked into the pockets of his jacket, as if he had just confessed something he had hidden for a very long time. Finally, he sighed. You should forget what I just said. I froze. Why? Because it shouldn't happen. I looked at him. Just because I'm your best friend's little brother? Emory stayed silent. That silence was almost an answer. I took one step closer to him. But you just said, you feel the same way. Blaine. His voice dropped. Don't what? Don't make this more complicated than it already is. I smiled sadly. Maybe it's been complicated for a long time. Emory looked at me, his eyes full of hesitation. You don't understand. Then explain it to me. A long silence stretched between us. Finally, Emory spoke. Your brother is the most important person in my college years. He helped me so much. We're basically family. I nodded. I know. Emory looked at me. So you understand why this is dangerous. Dangerous. I repeated. We're talking about liking each other, not committing a crime. Emory gave a small smile, but it was tired. To your brother, it might feel almost the same. I exhaled. That wasn't entirely wrong. My brother had always been extremely protective of me, sometimes too much. I looked at Emory. Do you really want to pretend nothing happened? Emory didn't answer right away. He looked at me for a long time. His eyes seemed to be searching for something in my face. Then he said, I don't know. That answer was so honest it made my heart ache. I took another step closer. Now the distance between us was almost gone. I know. Emory frowned. What do you know? I know what I feel. He looked at me. I took a deep breath, then said it straight. I like you. Saying those words made my whole body tremble. But at the same time, it felt incredibly relieving. Emory didn't say anything. He just looked at me. His eyes changed, as if a wall inside him had just cracked. Blaine. No, I said. Don't tell me to stop. I've tried to pretend nothing was there. I've tried to think of you as just my brother's friend. I've tried not to look at you that way. My voice shook a little. But I couldn't. Emory exhaled slowly. You're making everything harder. Maybe, I said. But at least now we're being honest. A gust of wind blew across the lake. Leaves rustled. Emory looked at me for a very long time. Then he said softly, You don't know what you're asking for. I'm not asking for anything. I'm just telling the truth. I looked straight into his eyes. You like me too. A long silence. Then Emory smiled faintly. Not a happy smile, but the smile of someone who had just lost an argument with himself. You're really dangerous. Because I'm honest? Because you never give up. Emory stepped closer to me. The space between us almost disappeared. I could hear his breathing. Do you know how much this could mess everything up? Yes. Your brother might hate you. I know. We could ruin years of friendship. I know. Emory stared at me. So why are you still standing here? My heart pounded. I whispered, Because you haven't stepped back yet. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Then Emory exhaled, as if he had finally surrendered to the battle inside him. He raised his hand, touched my cheek gently. The gesture was so light, but it made my whole body go numb. Blaine, he whispered, you really don't know what you're doing to me. I whispered back, maybe you don't know what you're doing to me either. Our eyes locked, the distance between us, only a few centimeters left. And in that moment, I knew that if either of us moved just a little more, everything would change forever. The space between us was so close I could feel Emory's breath. His hand still rested lightly on my cheek. Warm, so warm. My heart beat so fast I could barely hear the wind anymore. Only him. Only that moment. Emory looked at me for a long time. His eyes were full of hesitation, but also something else. An emotion he had been hiding all this time. Blaine, he whispered. We shouldn't. But he never finished the sentence, because I had already leaned in, just a little, and our lips touched, very lightly, like a question. A brief moment, almost non-existent. I was about to pull back immediately, but Emory wouldn't let me. His hand slid to the back of my neck, holding me there, and this time he kissed me first. No more hesitation, no more distance. The kiss was deeper, but still gentle, as if he was carefully touching something fragile. The whole world seemed to disappear. Only the two of us remained, standing by the lake under the dim golden lights. I felt my hands unconsciously grab his jacket. Emory smiled into the kiss, then finally pulled away. We stood very close, both of us breathing a little faster. Emory raised a hand to cover his face for a second, then smiled softly. We're screwed. I laughed. You say that like we just committed a crime. Pretty close. He looked at me, his eyes much softer than before. You okay? I nodded. You? Emory exhaled. I tried to avoid this. I know. But apparently I'm not very good at it. I smiled. Lucky for me. Emory shook his head. You're really dangerous. You already said that. A light, gentle silence fell, no longer tense like before, but still full of emotion. I looked down at the lake. Where do you think this is going? Emory didn't answer right away. He looked at the night sky for a few seconds, then said, I don't know. But I know one thing. I don't want to pretend what just happened didn't happen. My heart warmed. Me neither. Emory looked at me, then said very seriously, but we have to be careful. Why? He looked straight into my eyes. Your brother. I sighed. Right. That was the hardest part. My brother wasn't just my brother. He was also Emory's best friend. If he found out, I didn't want to imagine his reaction. Emory said softly, I don't want to hurt you. I'm not that fragile. I know, he said. But your brother is different. We stood there for a long time. Finally, Emory said, It's late. Yeah. I should take you back. You don't have to. I want to. We walked back to the car. The atmosphere inside was quiet, but not awkward, just new. When we reached my dorm, Emory stopped the car. I unbuckled my seatbelt, but I didn't get out right away. I turned to him. Emory. Yeah. Tonight? Do you regret it? Emory looked at me for a long time. Then he reached out and gently touched my hair. No, he said softly. Not even a little. My heart raced. I opened the car door, but before I stepped out, I turned back. Good night. Emory smiled. Good night, Blaine. I walked into the dorm, but when I reached my room, I could still feel the warmth on my lips. I sat down on the bed and realized one thing. My life had just changed. No more normal classes. No more carefree meetings. Now, something different existed between Emory and me. A secret, a feeling, and a future we still didn't know where it would lead. But no matter what happened next, I knew one thing. I would never forget that first kiss by the lake. The days after that, everything became both normal and completely different. During the day, college life continued as usual. I went to class. Emory went to class. We met at the library, the cafe, or the basketball court. But now, every time our eyes met, something was very clear between us. A secret. An emotion we couldn't speak out loud in front of others. One afternoon, I was studying in the library when my phone buzzed. A text from Emory. You free tonight? I replied, yes. Another message came. Come eat with me. I smiled to myself at the screen. We met at a small restaurant outside campus. Not crowded with students like the ones near school. It seemed Emory had deliberately chosen a place where fewer people knew us. When I arrived, he was already sitting at a table by the window. He looked up and smiled in a way that made my heart beat fast instantly. I was starting to think you like asking me out to eat. Emory shrugged. You're always hungry. True, we ordered. While waiting, Emory rested his chin on his hand and looked at me. You look happy. I'm always happy.
No.
He said gently. Today you're happier. I smiled. Maybe because I slept well last night. Really? Emory raised an eyebrow. I dreamed about someone. Oh, brown hair. Tall. Worries too much for no reason. Emory laughed.
Sounds familiar.
I laughed too. Moments like that started happening more often. We talked for hours. Not just about classes or college, but about life, family, dreams. One evening, while walking around campus, Emory said, I never thought I'd like being with someone like this. Why? I've always been pretty focused on the future. Sounds very mature. It means I usually miss what's right in front of me. He looked at me. But you make me slow down. I felt my chest warm. I hope in a good way. Emory smiled softly. Very good. But the secret was still a secret. We couldn't show anything in front of others, especially not in front of my brother. And that started becoming harder than I expected. One evening, I was sitting in my brother's apartment. He was playing a new game, the console I had paid $300 for. I was scrolling on my phone. A message from Emory appeared. I'm at the basketball court outside. Want to come out for a bit? My heart jumped. But right then, my brother glanced over. Who are you texting? I startled. A friend. What friend? Why are you asking so much? He shrugged. Just curious. Then he added, you and Emory have been meeting a lot lately, huh? My heart nearly stopped. What do you mean? I saw him at the library with you a few times. I tried to keep my voice normal. He's helping me study. My brother nodded. Emory always likes helping people. I smiled awkwardly, but inside worry started to rise. If he started suspecting, I didn't know what would happen. That night, after leaving my brother's apartment, I went to the basketball court. Emory was sitting on the bench. He saw me and stood up. You came. I nodded. But Emory immediately noticed something. What's wrong? I think my brother is starting to notice. Emory was silent for a few seconds, then exhaled. I figured it was only a matter of time. I don't want him to find out in a bad way. Emory looked at me. His eyes softened. Neither do I. I sat down on the bench. Sometimes I wish everything was simpler. Emory sat down beside me. Me too. A moment later, he reached out and gently held my hand. Just for a few seconds. Then let go. But that small gesture alone made my heart warm. Emory looked out at the dark court. Then said softly, no matter what happens. He turned to me. I don't regret meeting you. I looked at him. Even if everything gets messed up? Even then. I smiled faintly. Then, let's just keep going. But neither of us knew that, only a few weeks later, our secret would be discovered, and it would completely change everything between me, Emory, and my brother. In the weeks that followed, we tried to be more careful. We met less in crowded places. We texted less when my brother might be nearby. But no matter how hard we tried, there were moments we couldn't avoid. One late spring afternoon, the campus was full of sunlight. Students sat studying on the grass. Some were playing near the library. I had just finished class when Emory texted. Where are you? Behind the library. I walked around to the back of the building. It was a quiet corner. Few students came here. Emory was leaning against the wooden railing, looking out at the distant grass. When he saw me, he smiled. Hey! Hey! I walked closer. Skipping work. Just taking a break. We stood side by side. A light wind blew through the rows of trees. I said, only a few more weeks until you graduate. Yeah. His voice dropped a little. Time really flies. I kicked a small pebble. Have you decided about New York yet? Pretty much. My chest felt heavy. Sounds big. Emory looked at me. You still have 2 years here. I know. But I didn't finish the sentence. Emory understood. He stepped a little closer. "We'll figure it out," he said softly. But right at that moment, a familiar voice rang out behind us. "Blaine!" I turned around. My heart dropped into my stomach. My brother stood a few meters away, and his eyes were staring straight at Emory's hand, because Emory was holding mine. We let go immediately, but it was too late. My brother walked forward. His gaze moved from me to Emory, then back to me. "What the hell is going on?" No one answered. The air was so tense I could barely breathe. Finally, my brother looked straight at Emory. "You!" His voice was cold. "Explain." Emory stood straight, but I could see his shoulders tense. "We were just talking." My brother laughed dryly. "Holding hands while talking?" I took a deep breath. "Hyung." "Blaine, quiet." My brother's voice was sharp as a knife. He looked at Emory. "I trusted you. For 3 years. You were my best friend." Every sentence was heavy. "And now I see you here." He pointed at me. "With my little brother?" Emory didn't avoid his gaze. "We weren't planning to hide it forever." That sentence made everything worse. My brother laughed, but not happily. "So it's true." He turned to me. "You and him." I swallowed, but I didn't want to lie anymore. "Yes." A heavy silence. Then my brother turned back to Emory, his eyes full of disappointment. "You knew he was my brother." Emory nodded. "I knew. And you still did it?" "I didn't plan." "Stop." My brother cut him off. "I don't want to hear it." He looked at me. "Do you know he's leaving soon?" "I know." "So what do you think this is?" I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure either. My brother turned to Emory again. "You can do whatever you want, with whoever you want, but not with my brother." Emory said softly, "I care about him." "Don't say that." My brother's voice was full of anger. "You betrayed me." Those words were heavy as stones. Emory stayed silent. I stepped forward. "Hyung." "Blaine." My brother looked at me, his eyes more hurt than angry. "I thought you were smarter than this." That sentence made my heart twist. He turned away. "I need time." Then he walked off, without looking back. I stood there, feeling like I had just lost something huge. Emory stood beside me. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Finally, I whispered, "We just ruined everything." Emory looked in the direction my brother had gone, then said softly, "Not yet." I looked at him. "Are you sure?" Emory exhaled. "I don't know. But I know one thing." He turned to me, his eyes still determined. "I don't regret choosing you." My heart hurt, but also warmed. But we didn't know that the conflict with my brother was only just beginning, and it would force Emory to make the hardest decision of his life. After that day, everything changed, fast and clearly. My brother almost stopped talking to me. Normal messages disappeared. Meals together disappeared. Even when we accidentally ran into each other on campus, he only gave a cold nod and kept walking. I had never seen him like that, and what hurt me the most wasn't his anger. It was the disappointment. One evening, I was sitting alone in my dorm room when my phone buzzed. A text from Emory. "You okay?" I stared at the screen for a few seconds, then replied, "Not really." 3 minutes later, there was a knock at the door. I opened it. Emory stood in the hallway. The yellow light shone on his face. He looked at me like he was tired too. "I figured you couldn't sleep either." I stepped back to let him in. The small room suddenly became quiet. I sat on the edge of the bed. "He hates me now." Emory sat on the chair across from me.
No.
"Didn't you see the look in his eyes?" Emory stayed silent. I smiled bitterly. "Maybe he's right." "Blaine, you're leaving soon," I said. "New York. And I'm staying here. And now I've ruined my relationship with my brother." That sentence made my chest tighten. Emory stood up. He walked closer to me. "Look at me." I looked up. His eyes were serious. "You didn't ruin anything. He just needs time. And about us." He paused a little. "It's not wrong." I looked at him. Do you really believe that? Yeah, he said firmly. I've never been serious with anyone like this. That sentence made my heart race. But at the same time, I felt scared. Emory. Maybe we should stop. He froze. What did you say? I don't want you and my brother to lose each other. I don't want my family to break apart. Emory looked at me for a very long time. Then he said softly, You're trying to protect everyone. I'm trying to fix things. This isn't a mistake. I'm not sure anymore. The room fell silent. Finally, Emory exhaled. I graduate in 2 weeks. After that, I'm leaving campus. My heart ached sharply. He continued, Maybe that's for the best. I looked at him. What do you mean? I'll leave. You and your brother will have time to fix things. My chest felt like stone. And us? Emory looked at me, his eyes gentle but sad. We'll have distance. I didn't say anything, because I knew he was trying to do the right thing, even if it hurt both of us. 2 weeks later, graduation day arrived. The campus was full of students in black gowns. Families stood everywhere taking photos. I stood near the school gate, my heart pounding. I hadn't seen Emory since the day we talked in my dorm room, until I saw him. Emory walked out of the main building. His graduation gown fluttered lightly in the wind. He was talking to a few friends. Then he saw me. He stopped. We stood looking at each other for a few seconds. Then Emory walked toward me. Hey! Hey! We stood facing each other. So many things we wanted to say, but neither of us spoke right away. Finally, Emory smiled softly. I guess you still haven't forgotten me. I tried. I said. Didn't work. Emory smiled faintly. Then another voice rang out behind me. Blaine. I turned around. My brother stood there. My heart tightened. He looked at me, then at Emory. A long silence. Then he exhaled. I've been thinking a lot, he said. I still don't like this. I didn't dare breathe. But he continued. But I saw one thing. He looked at Emory. You came back to help my family last week. During the time we were apart, Emory had quietly returned to help when my dad had a minor car accident. That made my brother rethink things. My brother spoke slowly. You didn't have to do that. Emory said simply, Blaine is your family. So he's important to me too. My brother looked at him for a few seconds, then shook his head. You're an idiot. But his voice was no longer angry. He turned to me. If you hurt him. I know, I said immediately. He sighed, then said the words I never thought I would hear. I'll try to accept this. My chest felt light as if a weight had been lifted. Emory looked surprised too. My brother turned away. Don't make me regret it. Then he left. I stood there, almost unable to believe it. Emory turned to me. Did you hear that? I think so. We looked at each other. And this time, nothing was stopping us anymore. Emory reached out his hand. I took it. We walked together toward the school gate. The afternoon sunlight shone over the campus. Students laughed and talked around us. One chapter of life was ending. A new chapter was beginning. Emory squeezed my hand gently. You ready? I looked at him, then smiled. As long as I'm with you. We walked through the gate, hands still tightly held, toward the future ahead.